you two are the most depraved, demented, evil people that I have ever seen.
Timothy and Eston Saboro looked straight ahead as Judge Linda Jennings read off their punishments.
What is additionally disgusting is the fact that you distorted the Word of God for your own evil purpose.
Timothy is sentenced to life in prison without parole, while his son Eston will serve 68 years to life behind bars. A jury deliberated for more than 5 hours before finding the two men guilty on all counts, including rape, kidnapping, and endangering children.
I cried more than once. I was almost physically ill, too.
Juror James Geisler describes this week as both disgusting and stressful.
I'm emotionally spent.
It's okay.
I have grandkids that are the ages of some of those victims. Excuse me, that was hard to take.
For years, the Saboros raped and abused the two girls who are now 14 and 9 years old. Both took to the stands describing the sexual abuse.
Just knowing that those children were brave enough to stand up there and face their accusers, it was amazing.
In the Arctic sub-zero temperatures, firefighters trying to battle this house fire on County Road 26 were frozen themselves.
No, it's froze.
Helmets and gear covered in ice. 7 departments responded, including Bradner and Gibsonburg. Getting to the fire, a challenge in itself.
It takes the firefighters, especially with the ice roads, a little longer to get to the fire station, and then just getting the equipment out here. All the roads are ice.
Salt trucks help treat the icy roads. Even the firefighters' equipment, no match for the bitter cold. Trucks and hoses started to freeze.
We have things cracked open to keep them flowing.
Tankers were needed to haul in water. And watch what happened to the home. Once engulfed in flames, now covered in 3 to 4 inches of ice.
Before we hear from family members, 13 ABC's Sean Haggerty has been tracking this case since the very inception, since the day the fire happened. Sean, your reaction?
I'm surprised that we got to this point. 24 hours ago, the prosecution was rolling along with its case. Evidence was coming in. He could have faced a life sentence, and here we are, one misstep by one witness in about a 5-second sentence changes the entire case.
Judge Stacey Cook said before this all started today, it sucked the air out of the room.
That's probably a great way, because as we'll show the video throughout the day of yesterday's testimony, the attorney Peter Ross, you can hear this gasp like, oh, what did he just say? And I think that's a great description of what happened there, and it did. And it's
reset for people at home. What exactly happened yesterday?
So one of the detectives from the Toledo Police Department is testifying yesterday and is being asked how he believed he knew Ray Abu Arab was lying to detectives, and there was some back and forth.
And we have that soundbite right now, so let's take a listen to it.
So how do you know he lied to the police then about having something in his hand?
Because I did have knowledge that he obviously failed the polygraph.
Oh.
Now, in legal terms, help our viewers understand why that was taboo.
So the polygraph is not admissible in a court case. Police detectives can use it for their investigatory purposes, but in a court case, it is not admissible. That's Sergeant Detective Reeve Snyder from the Toledo Police Department. And as soon as he mentions that, the jurors then hear that. So the question is, could Judge Cook then say, okay, jurors, you heard that, but disregard it. Right. You heard it, but it doesn't really count in this case. You can't consider that. In a lot of legal terms, especially a lot of lawyers that I spoke with last night, that doesn't cut it. That is a major ground for a mistrial.
And we continue to follow breaking news as we come back on the air here. Live team coverage of the damaging winds out there.
It's been an interesting last 2 hours. Our team expand out all across Northwest Ohio and southeastern Michigan.
So we're tracking the damage, the power outages, and traffic troubles right now as well. We want to start, though, with meteorologist Ross Ellett.
Well, and right now we're seeing the worst of those winds starting to develop here across the northern part of the area. So Hillsdale, Lenawee, Monroe, Lucas, Fulton, and Williams counties is where the worst of it is right now.
What this means essentially is that certain high-profile vehicles are not allowed on the turnpike because of the danger posed by those high winds.
The Consumers Energy webpage isn't even loading the map to show you the outages, so that kind of gives you an idea of what kind of issues we're seeing there.
Now, we just had to move because there are so many down power lines and the threat of so many lines breaking just in back of us, so we moved safely away from the electrical power lines.
We are keeping an eye on it, though. Justin's going to try to give you the best shot we have. All right, here comes a gust. Let's see what it registers. Barely over 10 miles an hour, but I can guarantee you that it was better than 10 miles an hour when it knocked this tree down.
Help us out here and tell this story. We have a story on the front page of 13abc.com with that breaking news banner. You click on that. I'm going to show you here. That there, of course, is what you saw on the VGCS. But if you scroll down, we've developed a slideshow here of a couple of things, and they're coming in fast and furious.
Now you can see there is a house just behind it, also a busy road here on Byrne, and according to Toledo Police, this is a high voltage power line, and if it falls down, it could cause some significant damage.
When we were standing over there doing our live shot, the door flew open and a spring popped out, and we've already got a kink in the door. So if you try to go anywhere and step out, if it looks windy or feels windy, just trust me, you're going to have to hang on to it, because all of a sudden the wind is going to force it open, could potentially damage your vehicle, which it has done for us here.
First time I've ever saw anything like that over that way.
I got dressed and came over here, and I can't believe it.
We seen the fire coming down the street.
No matter who you talk to, this fire was hard to believe. Smoke could be seen for miles, and for many, it was right in their backyard.
It's very scary, because I was just taking a nap, and now just reading this, I mean, this is just crazy.
Shortly after it started, the Toledo Fire Department urged people to leave their houses because of potentially dangerous smoke.
13 ABC first spoke with Dr. Herodis Desani shortly after the FBI raided his addiction practice in December of 2016. This is what he told us then.
You feel it's always been appropriate with patients?
What do you mean?
Your interactions with patients has always been appropriate, professional, and...
You know, being as professional as you can be.
This was Desani in court as he enters Alfred pleas to 3 counts of sexual imposition.
I'm sorry about this.
Visibly sobbing, but not admitting guilt. Judge Linda Jennings accepting the plea and finds him guilty.
I think you should be going to prison today.
But while Desani could have faced 54 months in prison, he's given no jail time. He loses his medical license.
And quite frankly, Mr. Desani, you are a disgrace to your profession.
And has to register as a sex offender for 15 years.
This is the 43605 zip code, also known as the 05 or East Toledo. This area of the city has the highest number of overdoses in the city of Toledo and in Lucas County. Firefighters from this area have responded to over 300 overdoses so far this year. It's so bad that while we were out here shooting an interview about the issue on Parker Street, we actually had a young girl right next to us who overdosed on heroin right on the sidewalk while our cameras were rolling. A Wednesday morning in November, Lucas County DART officers Lisa Long and Angela Kemp are looking for a man named Raul. He overdosed for the 3rd time just hours earlier.
Hey, where's Raul?
A young girl at the house where there have been 12 overdoses helps officers locate Raul.
Ma'am, I used to do $100, $100 to $200 a day. You know, I was bad.
While we talk with Raul.
All right, you pack your bag.
Wait, she's about to collapse over here.
We got this. I'm telling you, I just...
Honey. Alex. You better call me one. A heroin overdose. This is Fire Station 6 at Oak and Fassett, just a few blocks from this overdose and in the heart of the 05 district.
Hey, does she snort or needle?
Firefighter Tim Haynes is part of a crew that goes on more overdose calls than fires.
We go on about 2 to 3 overdoses a day, and fires maybe 2 to 3 a week.
Firefighters here often respond to the same location multiple times. And while the overdose happens in the 05 zip code, the victims don't always live in this area.
They're from all over the city, you know, from different states even at times.
Alex lives in West Toledo.
Oh my goodness.
I always thought if someone's seen how they looked when they were overdosed, you know, not breathing, blue.
Alex.
We could get through to them how close they are actually to death.
Another 05 firefighter, James Christie.
We've had a couple times where, like, the little ones have actually called 911 for their parents.
Officers tell us a 5-year-old lives in this house.
It's disturbing when it's not like a shocker to the kids.
While crews work to pull Alex back, more than 10 minutes going by, she hangs on.
Pretty quickly, brain cells start to die, and
we ask emergency room Dr. Brian Kaminsky what happens during an overdose. Alex is not a patient at ProMedica, nor is she a patient of Dr. Kaminsky.
Debilitating brain damage that could be unrecoverable. People just simply don't recover. Some people become permanently disabled. Can develop this thing called anoxic brain injury. It becomes inflamed and then it becomes swollen, and that swelling of the brain tissue causes its own damage, which can be permanent and unrecoverable.
Several doses of Narcan later, Alex is back.
As soon as the Narcan takes effect, it's very dramatic, it's rapid, and it's immediate, and it blocks the effects of the opiates. She's just simply lucky to be alive from that event right there.
Alex is transported to the hospital.
Just imagine if nobody was there.
Does it affect Raul?
What now? What now? I mean, you got two ladies right here who'll help you. I mean, they'll take you to treatment right now. They'll find you a detox bed right now.
He agrees to think about it. In the meantime, another run, another overdose at Station 6.
You know, you want to help them, but you know the drug's got such a powerful grip on their life. It's sad, really.
A lot of people are kind of resigned to the fact that they're hooked on it, and that's just what life is for them now.
One day later, Raul has decided this is not the life he wants right now. He leaves the 05 one more time for detox.
I'm ready. I'm so ready. And like I said, I already did it for 4.5 months. So, I mean, I was almost there. I was so close.
2 weeks later, Raul walks away from detox. He's back in the 05. Officers tell us Alex was transported to a local hospital. We're told she declined treatment. DART officers trying several times to connect her. And that grandmother with the 5-year-old, they'll be moving to a new home. All the while, the rescue runs continue at Fire Station 6.
The newest Lake Erie algae forecast came out yesterday and shows a much bigger algae bloom than anything we had last summer. While these floodwaters will temporarily cool down Lake Erie, in just a couple of weeks, we'll already have algae visible.
For the algae to use them and explode the population.
Dr. Mike McKay says that should happen soon as silty floodwater clears and western Lake Erie hits 75 degrees.
Already prior to the rain we've had this week or even last week, we knew it was going to be a sizable bloom.
Over 80 scientists from all over the country and all over the world are at Maumee Bay State Park this week, each specializing in toxic algae bloom prevention in the world's waterways.
The Maumee River is kind of where a lot of the phosphorus is coming into the bay, and the bulk of the algae bloom is happening here in the Western Basin.
Area charter boat captains are the teachers, and the classroom is out on the waters. Charter boat captain Dave Spangler says this year's alga bloom is on track to be severe.
Is the season just starting?
It started a couple of weeks ago.
Spangler says while the water around the Toledo intake isn't too bad just yet, other areas are already dangerous.
There is a lot to learn about the waters of Lake Erie and its tributaries.
Turtles are actually a really good indicator species.
Meaning the turtle's health is a good indicator of the health of the overall environment.
People really don't know anything about the effects of microcystin on aquatic wildlife.
The first order of business is trapping the turtles. There are two different kinds of traps. One that uses bait to lure the turtles in. The other catches them while they're sunbathing.
Basically there's two ramps, so the turtles will climb up and they'll bask on the 2x4s. And when they go to jump back in the water, there's a net underneath. So it's a 50-50 chance. If they jump into the net, they're caught. If they jump out, they're free.
Once the turtles are taken out of the traps, they're first checked to see if they've already been caught. Every turtle that's brought in is marked by filing scales on their shell.
9, 10, 11, 12. So this one's 8, 12.
The testing includes collecting baseline information, like measurements and blood samples.
The pictures this summer look much like they have over several years. That green, soupy-looking algae in Lake Erie. Algae that caused a water drinking ban back in 2014.
The community is sort of in a heightened sense of
awareness of what's going on with the water.
So the city created the dashboard for water quality. It currently sits at clear and will only move to watch if the microcystin bacteria get to a level of 5 parts per billion in the raw lake water.
We have plenty of treatment capacity that can handle 5 parts per billion very easily.
Even in a watch, that still means no toxin has been detected at the tap in your home. If it is detected at the tap, the dashboard will go to caution. But even then, Ed Moore with the city's water department says they will aggressively start treating the water.
When the City of Toledo water dashboard goes from clear to watch, what's happening is that out here at the sensor buoy, they measure microcystin at more than 5 parts per billion. So it's very heavy here in the lake before it even makes it to the water intake. At that point, people in the water treatment plant know to up the chemicals before it even makes it into the system. Pachalski says on top of the surface water monitors, he and other charter boat captains collect regular water samples throughout the Western Basin for testing.
Everything you can monitor on this water, but they look for different signs of this harmful algal, which is a cyanobacteria.
At this point, that's all they can do until the water is cleaned up in the years ahead. So while we still have many difficult weeks ahead, the algal bloom season is expected to start to taper off at the end of September and pretty much be finished up by mid-October.
This is probably the worst year I've seen it is right now.
Gary McDonough has lived in his Point Place lakefront house for 25 years. He says over the past 3 years or so, the pea soup neon green algae has steadily taken over the shores here.
It stops you from enjoying the water.
A steady northeast wind this week, blowing thick algae in, washing up on the rocks and coating everything it touches.
We have kayaks. We don't go out in them, not stuff like this. I mean, you don't even want to splash that stuff on you.
We sell them by the scoop.
It's not your typical dream job, but for Kevin Mazinger, it's all he's wanted to do.
I've worked for General Motors for 30 years. I retired, and this is what I ended up with. And it's a dream come true for me.
The owner of Fisherman's Cave Bait and Tackle in Erie, Michigan, Kevin makes a living off the waters of Lake Erie.
Well, I got an 18-foot pontoon. I'm supposed to go out at 12. Probably too rough?
It's white camping out there.
Okay. I like being on water. I like selling the bait. I like dealing with the people.
Lately, the business he loves has taken a hit.
When the green algae comes, the boat rental comes to a halt.
This green slime is keeping customers at bay.
People that rent boats don't usually go out in the lake, so they think that that algae is contamination. They're not going to swim in it, and they're not going to fish in it.
At first glance, it may look like a normal day on the mighty Maumee, but a closer look shows the ugly reality.
I'm just glad that when we go out on a cruise that people are looking up and out at how beautiful Toledo is rather than down and in and seeing how bad our river is.
Murky, paint-like algae covers the shoreline of the river. Thursday, conditions prompted the Toledo-Lucas County Health Department to issue an advisory, warning people and pets to avoid contact with the water, especially children, people with health conditions, and pregnant and nursing moms.
Whenever you have light winds, the right conditions with a lot of phosphorus and nitrogen, then you're going to get the harmful algal bloom or the cyanobacteria.
Charter boat captain Paul Pachalski says the recent weather is just fueling the fire, adding that it's no surprise the river looks the way it does.
Just 9 miles offshore from Ottawa County Life is an island that's been forgotten. It's a little slice of Eden called West Sister Island. 13 ABC's Ben Cathy was the first news reporter ever invited on this beach. He is part of one of a series you'll only see here.
West Sister Island is home to 4,000 plus breeding pairs of special birds, and it's Ohio's only wilderness area. It's only 81 acres in size, and while you'll find plenty of birds and animals, you won't find any people.
The birds are defecating on us, vomiting on us.
Ah!
Oh, that was actually a partially digested frog.
Whoa, there's another one.
See, West Sister Island has another name, Vomit Island. And without many predators besides a lone red fox, it's what they do to scare us off.
It is the largest heron egret rookery on the U.S. side of the Great Lakes.
Eddie Pausch guides the Fish and Wildlife boat onshore about 5 times a year. Today, we're looking for the threatened black-crowned night heron.
Historically, they nested on the mainland too, but now they're kind of just nesting out on these islands in Lake Erie.
Unlike the cormorants and gulls, the herons fly back to the mainland for food.
The parents may be limited in how much food they can actually deliver here since it's so far. They have to fly 9 miles and back every time.
The island's isolation helps keep the birds safe, but being far from land, West Sister also served as a bombing run in World War II.
This was used during World War II as a practice bombing area. So there are literally bombs, exploded bombs, and practice bombs throughout the island.
As we leave the island, nearly 10,000 black diving birds hit the air at once.
This is ICE Air, Immigration and Customs Enforcement's air operation. It leaves Toledo Express on Tuesdays. Who's on it, leaving in shackles? According to Immigration and Customs, this operation's mission removes aliens who present a danger to national security or are a risk to public safety, as well as those who enter the United States illegally or otherwise undermine the integrity of our immigration laws.
Us as advocates need to stand with those communities to highlight that this is actually a welcoming community.
Eugenio Molo is an attorney with the Advocates for Basic Legal Equality. His work focuses on immigration. He says people are confused these days, some even panicked, not sure what's coming next.
We're trying to hold the officials accountable to make sure that due process is being carried out. Due process is enshrined in our Constitution. It protects everyone regardless of their immigration status.
So where do ICE air flyers go from Toledo? Over the years, 13 ABC has learned, people have gone to a variety of places: Chicago, San Antonio, Laredo, and most recently Alexandria, Louisiana. Their final destination depends on their home country. This operation is not a secret or a mystery. Some people could call it discreet. For example, just take a look at the plane. There are no markings that say immigration or customs or say what this operation is. The buses, the SUVs near it, no markings telling people what's happening here. ICE Air is not always a deterrent to keep people from coming back. Take this recent example. Emilio Rivera Portilla sits in federal custody in Toledo right now, accused of coming back into the country illegally. Federal court records show in 2003, Rivera Portillo was removed to Honduras by air at Houston, Texas. And this program isn't cheap. A recent report by the Office of the Inspector General estimates that ICE Air costs around $8,500 per charter flight, regardless of the number of passengers on board.
You're welcome. You have a good day. You too. Thank you.
What's coming next in immigration law out of Washington has people like Brenda worried. Her home, her business, and most importantly, her son are all here. She knows citizenship would be one path.
A lawyer, it costs a lot of money to do it. And some lawyers, they don't want to help you with it because they know it's a lot of work. You know, there's a lot of things that you have to go through in order to get that information you have to get from Mexico. Some information you can't get because there's nobody down there anymore.
She doesn't even know where she'd go if she was sent back to Mexico, if she was forced to fly on ICE Air.
I feel like I'm an American citizen here because I've been here since I was little.
Toledo-built Wranglers are front and center at the Jeep display in Detroit. And while they're getting plenty of attention, most of the questions are about the new model. Mark Allen is the head of Jeep design.
I don't want to get into the details yet, and why ruin the surprise. You must be terrible at Christmas, right?
As lead designer at Jeep, Allen says his job is really to get out of the way of the 75-year-old superstar.
It is challenging, honestly. From a designer perspective, we always want to just throw out the old one and in with the new one. Wrangler's so iconic, I can't do that with it.
After years of work, Allen says the new model hits the mark.
Anxiety, excitement, but I know we've done the car right, and we're very proud of what's going to be shown. And I think there's enough surprises in there that people should really look forward to it.
On any given week, workers here at the Pinnacle feed thousands of people at weddings and events. This week, they are being sent down to Texas, where they will feed thousands of people, workers and victims of Hurricane Harvey. This is the last of 3 truckfuls full of food being packed up in Maumee that will be unloaded and cooked in a portable kitchen over 1,200 miles away in Houston, Texas.
We've always wanted to
get into disaster relief catering.
Pinnacle General Manager Leslie Bailey says 13 workers from the Pinnacle, including managers, food servers, and preparers, are headed out. The first group left Monday with a truck, the second group leaving today.
We're responsible for setting up an entire mobile kitchen, tenting, and tables and chairs for the guests to eat at.
Taking the indoor banquet outside into the middle of a field.
The Paul R. Tregurtha is also known as the Queen of the Lakes. It is the largest freighter out on the Great Lakes today. It is more than 1,000 feet long and 100 feet wide, and these cargo holds carry tens of thousands of tons of cargo every single trip. She's an engineering marvel. The great ship of the Great Lakes moves quietly and efficiently through the water. At more than 3 football fields long, not only is the ship's size impressive, so is her workload.
She can move in one single trip as much as 70,000 tons, which over a season adds up to millions and millions of tons of cargo.
And to give you an idea just how much cargo 70,000 tons is, Interlake Steamship says it would take 700 train cars or 2,800 trucks to move the same amount the Tregurtha carries in a single trip.
You were out this morning. I mean, you got an idea of the volume that we're talking about here. It's a mountain of coal, yeah.
Debate day, getting you ready for the final face-off between Toledo's mayoral candidates.
Fostoria's financial future, what leaders say a levy loss will mean to safety in that city.
And getting ready for some action. A lot on the line at the Glass Bowl tonight. We're live as the Rockets kick off one of the biggest games of the year.
This is 13 ABC Action News with Diane Larson and Lee Conklin.
Well, just days before Toledo voters decide who will lead the city for the next 4 years, the candidates face off for the final time.
Happening right here at WGTE Studios in South Toledo. In less than an hour, Mayor Paula Hicks-Hudson and Lucas County Treasurer Wade Kapsakavich will tackle the issues in their last debate before Tuesday's general election.
And it gives us an opportunity, or the voters an opportunity, to see these two candidates. It's an hour-long debate. They will be fielding questions from a panel of reporters, including me, Bill Horman, Tom Troy, and Lauren Lindstrom from The Blade. And we'll be asking them all variety of questions, as well as asking them some questions that folks have given us to ask.
Yeah, we value our viewers so much. We want you to be part of this debate, and we're going to hear from you coming up between 7 and 8 o'clock, your questions for the candidates. And it's nice to see you. Talked with Tom Troy earlier that it's not just in sound bites. It's not 10 seconds, not 15 seconds. It's really how they feel as they flush out the issue that is so important to the city of Toledo and really our region for that matter.
And getting a little more heated as we get a little bit closer to Election Day again, which is next Tuesday, of course.
Once again, join us 7 o'clock tonight right here live, 13 ABC. Incumbent Mayor Paula Hicks-Hudson, Treasurer Wade Kapsakavich right here. Well, races for political seats, not the only matters on the minds of voters this year.
In Fostoria, for example, layoffs are looming. If voters don't pass a $6 million levy on Tuesday, the city is in dire straits financially. 13
ABC's Alexis Means talking with city leaders about the tough decisions they'll have to make to get the city back on track.
Customers at Dale's in Fostoria know in order for the city to survive, voters must pass a $6 million levy.
I think it should be voted for because, I mean, people want jobs to come to Fostoria, and if there's a volunteer firefighter and no cops patrolling the streets, there's really no reason anyone would come to Fostoria.
3, 2, 1, go.
Rachel Burns is a sophomore at the University of Toledo. She's studying for a career in the pharmaceutical industry. But before that, she's aiming for a victory only a few select students get to attempt.
I'm still kind of nervous because I'll be playing in the AT&T Dallas Cowboys Stadium.
Rachel will be competing in the Dr. Pepper Challenge. In 30 seconds, she'll have to throw as many footballs as she can through a target. The winner gets a $100,000 scholarship.
I'm a student at the University of Toledo.
Rachel was selected during a nationwide search because of this video. It showcases her optimism and dedication while living with cystic fibrosis.
I was told when I first started off that I wasn't going to live past 18.
Rachel was granted a wish through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. She says she wants to succeed in medicine to help others like her and to give back to groups like Make-A-Wish.
I want to give a Make-A-Wish kid a wish every year out of my own pocket. I want to be able to write a check and make someone's life that much better.
Go.
Rachel's been practicing at the UT Fetterman Training Center with as many footballs as she can find, about 13. Rachel's average is about 8 in 15 seconds, but she's gotten as many as 10. And believe me, it's not as easy as it looks. Need more proof? Let's go to the video replay. If Rachel can beat 2 out of the 4 competitors Friday, she'll go head-to-head Saturday, live during the halftime of the Oklahoma-TCU game. The winner of that matchup scores $100,000. And for Rachel, determination is on her side.
Now, 13 ABC First Warning Weather.
And good evening, along with meteorologist Ross Ellett, Jay Burschbach. We have Ben Cathy out in the field checking some damage to our east. Still watching the smallest possibility for severe weather. Pretty much a done deal, but we still have 3 counties under the watch officially.
Yeah, those are Erie, Huron, and Wyandotte counties officially under that tornado watch till 7 p.m., although that could easily be canceled early as these storms are racing off to the east.
Right. What we're seeing on radar really confirms that the action really has calmed down. Still some moderate rains out there, so do watch for flooding as we go into the overnight and that early drive to work and school tomorrow. Showers here from Bryan, Paulding, Defiance, also from BG through Findlay, where they got hit hard. North side of town there, a couple businesses had some major damage. Also Tiffin to the east. And as we zoom out a little bit, you can see all the watches here, these red areas. Those are the tornado watches. Much of them have been canceled except our very eastern 2 counties. Now a severe thunderstorm watch east of Cleveland. But upstream, once this passes through tonight, notice this, nice and calm for tomorrow. So rest easy and really sleeping tonight. That severe threat will have passed, and it's going to be many miles off to our east. We'll put that track on there once again. So if you're watching us right now, perhaps on the stream, perhaps on air, please, this is the area to take cover. These cities need to take cover immediately if you're near any of these locations. We have Peru, 512. West Heartland now at 517. Heartland and Heartland Station, 519. We have West Clarksfield at 523. Wakeman, 524. White Fox, 526. And Brighton, 528. Now, even though Norwalk is not listed there, probably within the next 5 to 10 minutes, if not less, you should see the core of the storm move overhead, because this is what we're watching, that little bit of an orange finger hanging down that would indicate the most likely spot for that rotation.
Let's take a look at where the next storm comes from. It's called an Alberta Clipper, and it's going to live up to both of those names. One's coming from Alberta. That means a reinforcing shot of cold air from deep in Canada, and the Clipper means it's fast moving. It's got to cover about 1,046 miles in the next, say, 16 hours, due for arrival as all snow starting early Monday afternoon.
It was downright frigid this morning, coldest morning we've had since February 28th of 2015. It's been a while. A couple years, almost 3 years here. Looking at those 0-degree days per year, normally we average about 6 in a given season. We're only about 6-7 days into the season, and we already have 2 days on that chart, which matches the number we had last year. We only had 1 the year before that. The flooding continues to be a concern here throughout parts of Hancock County. Flash flood warning till 10:45 this morning. Wyandotte, Putnam, and Allen counties under that flood advisory as well. So local flooding still a big concern, especially south of Toledo. And rain totals have varied significantly across the area depending on where you've been. Anywhere from just a few hundredths of an inch of rain towards Defiance, that's it, to about 3.5 inches of rain now falling in Findlay. We're not quite done, although the worst is over in Findlay as in terms of rain falling, but more still on the way throughout Seneca County. Also some more for Wyandotte County as well.
Hey there, Lee and Diane. Opportunities to shine, that's what every kid needs. But for some kids with special needs, those opportunities aren't as common. But the Miracle League of Northwest Ohio helped change that.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, Raptors! All right, let's go out there and play some baseball.
For a lot of people, playing baseball is as easy as grabbing a glove and a bat. But for those in the Miracle League, it's not quite as simple.
He can't play sports because of his physical limitations, so this means everything to him, and he looks forward to every game and every season. The only time he's missed a game is when he was in the hospital. So for him, it's everything. For us, it's everything.
We actually get to be normal kids for once, you know, all the medications and blah, blah, blah. We could actually nail out of the park here. I mean, there's no doubt about that. We can just have fun, be ourselves. I mean, who needs the MLB when you got this? Oh, yeah. especially for the people that don't get like me, who don't get like included in sports and stuff at school, who have medical issues. This is something we can all do. They accommodate us. So being a part of a team is pretty awesome.
Down this way, go. There are miracle leagues all over the world. 300 in all, serving 200,000 children and young adults with special needs. The one in Northwest Ohio began in 2007. They had 8 kids. Now they have 8 teams, nearly 100 kids in all. The Pope himself became a part of the rivalry earlier this year when Michigan took a trip to Rome. It's a rivalry unmatched in college football and arguably in all of sports. It's about the bands, the fans, the helmets, the game, our game. It's the maize and blue, the scarlet and gray. It is the border battle. And welcome back, everyone. We are live in Ann Arbor leading up to kickoff. Joe Nugent and Justin Feldkamp. And Joe, we've seen a number of area guys from the Toledo area who've gone on to play for the Buckeyes or the Wolverines. We're going to have another one next year.
That's right. Dallas Gant out of St. John's Jesuit will sign to play for the Buckeyes. And Steve Slivka has more on the big linebacker.
Yeah, Joe, this is the last year that Dallas Gant will not have any involvement in this game because he'll be watching from the sideline. But he is staying busy at the Leiden Center over at St. John's Jesuit High School, the Leiden Center, better known as the weight room, as Dallas is working toward being able to play right away with the Buckeyes. And when I say right away, I mean working towards spring football, because he will graduate early from St. John's and enroll early at the start of the second semester at Ohio State. Now, enrolling early, if you're a college football player, not unusual nowadays. It is unusual to do so at St. John's Jesuit High School, because to do so, people don't graduate early from the high school. The only other person to do so was Jack Muhort, who also played for the Buckeyes.
Just the best decision for me. It's going to be a quick turnaround. I have to report by January 8th, I believe. So I only got like a month or so left of high school. I expect to gain a lot from going early. Get to go in the weight room early, start classes early as well. So I expect to be graduated before everyone else. So it's just the best choice that I made for me, and I'm really excited about it.
Dallas will play in the Army All-American game on January 6th, and then 2 days later, he's moving to Columbus.
Virtually suck the air out of this courtroom.
A turn of events in testimony stops a trial in its tracks.
The court finds that I have no other legal remedy but to enter a mistrial.
Instead, a deal for the man charged in the deaths of 2 Toledo firefighters.
You're entering a plea of guilty.
Caught between closure and justice, the families of the fallen firefighters.
The outcome of this case and this trial is that nobody wins.
Team coverage, reaction to the mistrial, and the plea deal reached in the case of Ray Abu Arab.
A whirlwind, 24 hours, and one of the most anticipated trials in years.
After weeks of testimony, a moment on the stand brings the trial of Ray Abu Arab to an unexpected ending.
By virtue of our obligation to provide effective assistance of counsel to Mr. Abu Arab, to now move this court to declare mistrial.
The judge accepting the motion for a mistrial, Abu Arab giving a thumbs up in the hall a day after the detective's testimony delayed proceedings.
Abu Arab on trial for aggravated murder and arson in the 2014 fire that killed Private Stephen Mashinsky and Jamie Dickman. But today, Abu Arab entered an Alford plea to reduce charges.
And here's what the plea entails. He is pleading guilty to 2 counts each of involuntary manslaughter and aggravated arson. His sentence, 20 years in prison, but he was credited for the time he's already spent in jail. He'll also have to register as an arson offender.
And our team tracking the fallout from today's developments, the firefighters' families, and the fire department sharing their thoughts on the court's decision.
But we want to start with how this all played out in the courtroom, and for that we turn to 13 ABC's Alexis Means.
Well, the family was pretty disappointed today. This is not how they wanted this case to end. Last night, the witnesses' testimony was reviewed by the prosecutors, and then the prosecutor gave the family 2 options. You either go to another trial or go through another trial, or you allow Ray Abu Arab to take a plea agreement. They chose the plea agreement because they did not want to have to go through another trial.
Because this wasn't an accident. This wasn't an act of God. This wasn't bad luck. This was a conscious decision made by a man for whatever warped and selfish reasons that made sense to him to start a fire in a garage in a building he owned.
With that said, the judge sentenced Ray Abu Arab to 20 years in prison. The former carryout owner was offered a plea agreement after his case abruptly ended.
The court finds that I have no other legal remedy but to enter a mistrial.
On Wednesday, during testimony, a Toledo police sergeant made a costly statement. He was questioned about how he knew Ray Abu Arab was lying.
I never viewed any of his interviews.
Then how do you never viewed any of his interviews? So how do you know he lied to the police then about having something in his hand?
Because I did have knowledge that he obviously failed a polygraph.
Whoa.
Polygraph tests are not admissible in court. It shocked the entire courtroom.
Virtually sucked the air out of this courtroom.
And left the victims' families emotionally broken, wondering if justice would be served for firefighters Jamie Dickman and Steve Mashinsky.
Not one fireman or firewoman hasn't relived every moment of that day thousands of times.
Overnight, the prosecution and defense team hammered out a deal so the firefighters and families of privates Dickman and Mashinsky could hopefully find some closure.
I want you to understand that no punishment that I can give will ever be enough to make the Dickman or Mashinsky families whole. No punishment to you erases the horrors the firefighters witnessed that day.
And the families told the judge that they have never seen an ounce of remorse from Ray Abu Arab. Back to you, Lee.
All right, Alexis Means, thanks very much. It's taken more than 3 years to get to this point. All started Sunday, January 26th, 2014. Firefighters Mashinsky and Dickman trapped in that burning building on Magnolia. And as you know, they never made it out alive. Now, some 4 days later, the public, including firefighters from around the country, came together, honoring the men at the Seagate Center. And the next day, Abu Arab arrested and in February indicted. And after a number of court hearings, a slew of them, the death penalty taken off the table. The case went to trial April 24th, coming to that conclusion today. Diane.
And it's been a very long 3-year fight for the family members of Privates Dickman and Mashinsky, and today it ended with a form of closure that no one could have predicted. I-Team reporter Sean Haggerty has that part of the story. Sean.
Yeah, those family members could not have imagined 18 to 24 hours ago having a news conference here in downtown Toledo discussing the end of this case, but that is the outcome they have, and that is the outcome they have to accept as they try to digest today's plea agreement today. Both the Mashinsky and the Dickman family members today got a chance to address Abu Arab in court, talking about how their loved one was taken away from them on that day in January of 2014. Libby Cheney, Dickman's sister, says it was a long fight, a fight that they took with their new family, the Toledo Fire family, the police family, Lucas County prosecutors as well. She admits this is not the outcome they wanted or expected, but it is the outcome they have. So we asked her, is this closure?
I think that means something different to all of us. We're all going to have closure in it in a different way. I've said before that we all grieve them for different reasons. He was my brother, my parents' son.
As for the decision to offer and eventually accept that plea deal, Cheney says the family members were a part of the discussion and they accept what has happened. Diane?
Hey, Sean, you were there the day of the fire. You even spoke with Abu Arab that day. What will you take away from this now 3-year process?
I think the one major takeaway are the twists and the turns that this case took. When we pulled up to the fire, it looked like a typical house fire that firefighters respond to all the time. I even spoke with Abu Arab, as you said. I asked if anyone was still inside. He said no, everyone was out and safe. Very cool, calm demeanor. Then you see the panic from firefighters as they probably got the distress call. Then we started to learn the firefighters had passed away. The investigation that was happening in the background was now a criminal investigation, eventually charging Abu Arab. And then for 3 years worth of an investigation and a trial, one sentence totally changes this whole trial and turns it upside down. So, Diane, the twists and turns that this case took are something a lot of people are going to remember.
All right, Sean Haggerty, thanks for that report. And a lot of emotions during this trial today. Judge Stacy Cook, while addressing Abu Arab, was even driven to tears.
I saw the absolute commitment this band of brothers has for each other as they fought to help to get Privates Dickman and Private Mashinsky including a father who was a police officer on scene, who looked his rookie firefighting son in the face and telling him, knowing the inferno he was about to enter, you have to go in and get your guys.
So is it common for judges to let their emotions show? We asked UT Law professor Greg Gilchrist about that earlier today.
I think it's not uncommon in a case like this because this is such an emotional case, right? And this is the moment of sentencing. This is where the community, through the judge, casts judgment on the person who committed this crime.
Gilchrist also calls today's decisions a gut decision that is a punch in the gut for prosecutors because of the time spent preparing for this case.
And fire and police leaders also talking about the outcome of this case today. 13 ABC's Lisa Guyton was at this afternoon's news conference, and she now joins us live. Lisa.
Chief Santiago says he is not happy about how it all came to an end, but he accepts it. He says since the day firefighters Mashinsky and Dickman died, there's been a heavy weight on the shoulders and the hearts of everyone in the department. He says it's important to point out that even with that, the men and women have continued to do incredible work for the city of Toledo. He hopes the healing can begin with the end of this case. As you know, the case ended with a mistrial and a plea deal after the testimony of a Toledo police sergeant. We asked Chief George Kroll about that testimony. He points out that Sergeant Snyder has testified in hundreds of cases, and Snyder is devastated by what happened.
This was not the way we intended this trial to end. As Chief of Police, I fully recognize and accept full responsibility for what happened in court yesterday. That being said, the detective sergeant who was on the stand told the truth. However, due to the rule of law, that particular truth was not allowed to be heard in open court. There was no malice or ill will in his heart, and he feels horrible, as do I and the entire Toledo Police Department.
Chief Kroll adds that the department will learn from what happened and train to make sure it never happens again. Reporting live in downtown Toledo, Lisa Guyton, 13 ABC, Action News.
Well, still to come, it's Ottawa County's largest employer.
But what are the consequences of keeping Davis-Besse up and running for years to come? At what cost to you? An in-depth look at what's at stake when we come back.
When you woke up this morning, chances are it was one of the first things that you did. You turned on the lights, and they worked.
Also safe to say, you didn't think for a second where that electricity came from to make it happen. Tonight, the future of one of our area's biggest energy sources and the people behind it is very much in doubt. A cloud of uncertainty looms over the towns, the cities, and the schools of Ottawa County.
That the facility's not going to shut down. I want to believe that it's not going to shut down.
Towering over the landscape, the Davis-Besse nuclear power station. Churning out electricity for hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses in Northwest Ohio. But what happens if this plant goes dark for good?
Deactivation and decommissioning of the plant is a possibility.
First Energy operates Davis-Besse and the Perry Nuclear Power Plant in Northeast Ohio. The company is drowning in debt. Sam Belcher is the chief nuclear officer.
We're exiting generation that's subjected to the competitive pressures of the marketplace.
Among those competitive pressures, electricity generated by historically inexpensive natural gas, wind and solar power alternatives, and deregulation of electricity markets. Belcher says there's still a place at the table for nuclear power.
Reliable, 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week power. We're not impacted by extremes of weather, so we're able to put power on the grid whether the wind blows or the sun shines. We're there around the clock. We do it emission-free.
But for all its positives, nuclear power is expensive to produce. First Energy is hanging its hat on legislation working its way through the State House. It would create zero emissions credits for the benefit of operating a nuclear reactor like Davis-Besse. And this is where you come in. If lawmakers in the House and Senate say yes, and the governor signs off, consumers would pay more.
And I correlate that to about a Starbucks coffee per month to ensure this plant continues to exist for the long term.
Or approximately $5 more a month for the average ratepayer. Longtime Ottawa County Commissioner Jim Sass calls it money well spent.
It's a huge impact. It is our largest employer, and it's our largest taxpayer.
Some 700 people Chemists, engineers, nuclear operators, and others work here, making an average of over $80,000 a year.
It's a great job in an area that I grew up in. For me, it's a great industry.
An industry helping to power Port Clinton, Oak Harbor, and the schools.
It's about 40% of our overall budget in a $20 million budget overall as a school district. It would be catastrophic to our district.
No one denies the wide-ranging economic impact Davis-Besse has on Ottawa County, and Northwest Ohio for that matter, but there is great debate brewing over that ZEN, or zero emissions legislation. The AARP here in Ohio, just one organization lining up in opposition. The Ohio Manufacturers Association calling it a wolf in sheep's clothing. And the Alliance for Energy Choice labels it a Chicken Little scheme. And yet another group says the bill is solely intended to improve First Energy's bottom line.
This really isn't about First Energy. This is about Davis-Besse. This is about Perry. We believe that these plants are valuable to the local communities.
It's not about dollars and cents, though.
Well, it's about ensuring that the plants have what they need to continue to operate.
And it's looking more and more like Ohio lawmakers will make the call.
If we don't do everything we can possibly do, and at the end of the day the result would be the plant would close down, I don't think I could sleep at night if I knew I didn't put the best effort I could to try to get a bill passed to at least keep these plants running.
And with that, the lobbying on both sides continues. Opponents maintain First Energy needs to fix its own mess, and you, the consumer, should have no part of what the critics call a clear and absolute bailout. Many of our region's lawmakers expressing support for nuclear energy as one piece of Ohio's power portfolio. Others telling me they're still in the information gathering process. The most recent committee hearing was this past Tuesday.
Oh, so when does First Energy make a final decision on the future of Davis-Besse and Perry over in Cleveland?
Well, they're calling it a race against time. By next summer, they want to make a call. So just over a year. Important to note, even if this ZEN bill passes, First Energy says it could sell Davis-Besse and Perry. Those plants could continue to operate. But at this point, it doesn't appear there's a huge market for a pair of struggling nuclear power plants. Of course, we'll be following this important vote, this important story, very closely.
Something to think about. All right, Lee, thank you. Well, we're not only going to hit 70 for the first time this month.
Jay has a couple of days in the 80s in his 7-day forecast. Details after the break.
Now, 13 ABC First Warning Weather with Chief Meteorologist Jay Burschbach.
A quick preview of tomorrow evening, the walleye back in town. Of course, it's a Friday evening, so downtown might be a little busy tomorrow, but looking dry at 7, 9, and 11 o'clock with temperatures in the evening falling from the 50s into the 40s. Again, that's tomorrow evening. The trend over the next week, well, it's a big rise in temps. We start tomorrow in the 60s, your weekend near 70. That'll be the first time we hit 70 this month, and next week by Wednesday and Thursday, highs in the lower 80s. So get those shorts and short sleeve shirts ready. Almost a summery feel to the air. Nothing tonight on Live Doppler 13,000. Rain is down to our southeast. That's where it stays for tonight with the current temperature of an even 60. Clouds will break up and then move back in later on tonight. There's that northeast wind. We've had it all week, basically, at 12 miles per hour, keeping temps along the lake shore in the 50s, inland between 60 and 63. So for tonight, here are the clearing skies initially. Nice view of that nearly full moon. Tomorrow morning, though, the clouds start coming back at us from the east. The rain stays away, but kind of cloudy at times, and it's looking okay temperature-wise. 60s. Same thing for Saturday, just a little more sunshine, and the chance of rain does sneak through late overnight into very early Mother's Day, but by about sunrise, the dry weather is back. Tonight, the low 44. Clearing skies this evening, then increasing clouds by sunrise. Tomorrow, no drizzle expected, actually. That has been taken out of the forecast. Highs in the lower 60s. Northeast winds, 5 to 15. How about your 7-day forecast? Let's focus on Mother's Day weekend. Really pleasant after relatively cool weather this week. How about 70 each day? Warm and dry for Saturday. Sprinkles possible overnight into very early Sunday. But the rest of our day, dry and warm. Next week, 72 degrees for Monday, 77 Tuesday, and there are the 80s, 83 for Wednesday and Thursday. Just a slight chance of a shower for Thursday itself. So a nice dry, warmer stretch of weather, perhaps just what the doctor ordered for many of you and the farmers as well. You need to get out there in the fields and let them dry out.
Yeah, all right. Jay, thanks.
Okay. Stay with the sports straight ahead.
Now, 13 ABC Action Sports with BCSN. Here's Sports Director Justin Feldkamp.
Hey everyone. Lucas Hafner has made his way around the country in recent months, playing for 3 teams and led him back home, here to Toledo. His Colorado Eagles will face the Walleye in the playoffs starting tomorrow. Lucas Hafner is home, albeit in an opposing jersey.
Yeah, I was able to go home last night and see the dogs for the first time in a while and got to go out to dinner with my mom, so that was nice.
The Central Catholic grad went on to play for Western Michigan. Since then, he's played in
Anchorage, Alaska, Columbus, Georgia, and then in Loveland.
All in a span of
1 year.
That's Loveland, Colorado, the home of the Eagles.
Lucas came in at a time when we needed him in the regular season. Really showed us what he was made of, and then was patient when we had contracted guys play in front of him, worked hard every day, was a great teammate, and has really taken advantage of his opportunity here in the playoffs.
The team's been playing really well in front of me, and given the opportunity, is just trying to make the most of it every time I get a chance to start.
His family will be there tomorrow night, in the stands and on his mask. Each member is represented: his mom, dad, grandpa, and 2 younger sisters. His dad used to fire shots at him when he was covered in couch pillows. No doubt he would be there tomorrow, but a few years ago he died due to complications of pancreatic cancer.
He'd just probably have a smile on his face, continuously. So getting the chance to come home, my family hasn't had a chance to see me play a pro game yet, so it'd be great to get in that one of the nights.
Colorado's coach has yet to decide who will start in goal, but if Hafner gets the chance, he'll be ready. Seems like a good kid. Meanwhile, Michigan's first NASCAR race of the season is next month, and today Cup driver Eric Almirola says the new stage format for races has been a success.
I think that's going to fit really well with Michigan International Speedway, because in years past, there's no denying the fact that while Michigan is a very fast and fun racetrack to race at, the race can sometimes get strung out. And, aerodynamics plays such a big part of that race in Michigan, and horsepower, that when the cars get strung out, it's really hard to pass, and we fight sort of the aero bubble. Well, now we've got designated segments, designated cautions. You're going to bunch the cars back up. You're going to allow the teams and the crew chiefs to come up with some pretty wild strategies.
They'll be racing at MIS in mid-June. We're coming right back.
An award-winning sports columnist has inked another honor.
Toledo native Christine Brennan joining the pantheon of bun signers today at Tony Packo's. Brennan says she's thrilled and honored to be part of this Toledo tradition.
Yeah, this is about the pinnacle of my career, I have to say. There's seriously, I grew up, of course, in Toledo, and coming here for school trips and things like that, Tony Packo's has always been a huge part of my life.
And in all, we're told Packo's has some 4,000 signed buns.
Well, a very risky game of cat and mouse.
Tonight at 11, we're going to introduce you to a kayaker who had to paddle for his life when he came face to face with a curious gator.
Yikes. And you're talking about tigers tonight.
JD Martinez doing a rehab stint with the Mud Hens. It's been a struggle so far this week, but he did something good tonight at the plate. We'll have that.
All right, weather-wise, what's coming up?
Yeah, up and up we go. First time to hit 70 this year in the forecast. Not just that, chance to hit 80 as well. Not once, but twice. So temps are up. Details at 11.
Wonderful news, Jay. Thanks. And be sure to join us tonight at 11 for 13 minutes of nonstop news.
Stay with us now. World News Tonight with David Murrow starts right now. Take care, everyone.
Good night.
This is home. Toledo's only live Doppler. Live Doppler 13,000. On air, online, on the go.